Okay, looks like we're live.
Okay.
Tell me when you can see it on your side.
Okay. Just got to. There we go. Well, good.
All right. Well then, welcome to whatever episode number we're on now.
21, 22, maybe.
20, 21, 22, something in that range, yes. And look, we have a special guest
Hey.
today.
Hello, everybody.
Barisa Abdi Fatah is joining us with a background in education because we're taking a bit of a risk here. We've prepared maybe even less than we normally do
Absolutely.
to try and have a conversation about artificial intelligence in the age, no, no, education in the age of artificial intelligence.
I like that one.
AI in the age of
Yeah,
education.
yeah, in the age of education.
Yeah, I
Um,
definitely don't think we're there.
no, we're not. No, no. I'm not too,
Yeah.
well, interesting.
So if I try and start something and then let's just see where it goes from there. My thinking is there's many different perspectives of education. Um, and AI, you know me, the number one thing I like to think about is relationships and what's going on in between. So that type of AI, that's a relational AI, as opposed to simply using AI to get my work done. I think that's the most
Oh, yeah,
obvious. I think
absolutely.
everyone would think, oh, let's have a debate about are you allowed to use AI? Is that killing thinking? That's not where I'm coming from at all, but let's just say that one because I think most everybody's going to start there. So some kind AI empowering relationships between people. Now, the people I want to call out are sure, there's people that are students, that's a group of people for in education, but let's not forget all the other groups that we talk about in education. Early education, midlife career, your lifelong learning type of education. But I'm talking about relatively young students, teachers, administration, parents. When I'm thinking of AI in education, I'm thinking all the different audiences.
Yeah. Let me just add something immediately to that.
Yep.
In fact, increasingly, I'm not thinking or talking or writing about AI in education, but it's some uh, um, what I would call dialogic learning or learning an AI, and because that's everybody, all of us are learning, and will have the potential to learn with AI maybe as a thinking partner. So I'm more focused and interested in learning and thinking rather than education in a formal sense. So that's my focus. I'm just adding that.
Love it. What's your focus?
My focus is technically is a combination of both of AI in education and also learning because it's the same learning, whether it's in a educational institutions or in a different context where it is more general. As you said, the lifelong learning journey includes that because everybody now is exposed to AI somehow, either to get things done or to explore more opportunities about how either learning something new or just adding a skill to match the market, the current market right now, or the job market.
I remember one of the blogs, you just reminded me, both of you, that one of the blogs I wrote was called, I was proud of the title because this was before, generative AI, and it was titled The Death of Education, The Dawn of Learning.
Okay.
That's the title of it. And the whole point was, what if we rethought, I think to what you're both saying, like the
Well,
learning side.
I think this is what's going on now. I mean, it's AI that's been the catalyst for this. It's causing pretty much everybody, especially educationists, to rethink to rethink the purpose of education and how we go about it.
I think a
Um,
lot. Oh, go ahead, go ahead.
Now, I was just going to add because Barisa said that essentially whether it's in an education setting or lifelong learning, it's the same. And it occurred to me that in some sense it is the same, but there's a little bit of a difference because when it comes to education, there's usually a fixed curriculum. But when it comes to um, the learning that I do, or I guess you guys do, there is no fixed curriculum. We're more driven by our curiosity and our immediate needs rather than going through a fixed curriculum to get some sort of certification at the end of it. So in some ways, the two, and this would be worth exploring actually, the two modes, if you like, are quite different.
Mhm. Yes, because it differs depending on the context again.
Yeah.
They are related, but I'm talking like, let's say, take an example of a university or a school system, and then you will be teaching or adding AI somehow to the curriculum for students, but then you need some training for the teachers or the admin to be, aware of what they're teaching first. So that's a requirement just for them to teach a material. For the students, they are actually getting that education, so it's the purpose usually is different. Maybe the teacher is for compliance or PD points, professional development points, or for students, they're students. Their job is to be there and be taught. So the purpose might be different, but they're both are learning.
Yeah, I don't like this concept of being taught. I,
Mhm.
I hated being taught. I love
Dialogical.
learning, but I don't like being taught.
I put it in ChatGPT, and here's the one, two, three, six things that ChatGPT came back. I just said, tell me about AI for learning, is what I said. And it said personalized learning paths. So that's to your point of instead of, I've never liked this term, but do you have it over there too? I think you do. Sheep dip, where it's like like curriculum, like you take all the sheep and you dip them in the same liquid, and now all the
Oh,
sheep
okay.
look the same, that type of thing, right?
Yes, yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
I
yeah.
think
Hate it,
AI
hate it.
could, yeah, as opposed to having one teacher who's struggling with 20, 30, 40 kids, now you can actually have one teacher who's creating a learning environment where every single
For each
student
individual child,
can
yeah.
be so personalized learning paths, tutoring, so you can have, using AI to be a tutor, assessment and feedback. So rather than some teacher having to like spend all this time thinking up test questions and that, right? Like AI can somehow walk you through assessments and feedbacks. Teacher support and admin support, we already kind of talked about. And then the very last point I definitely want to call out, equity.
Oh, okay.
I think there's something about, I don't think AI is equitable yet, but
Say
maybe
more
it's,
about that. When you say equity, what do you mean? And what do you mean when you say that AI is not equitable yet?
yeah. I'd love to. I'd love to hear from both of you on it too. Okay, so quick first thought is, so we know how AI generally works, right? With tokens, and it goes off and finds other related content and brings it back. But it's basically bringing together content that already exists and it's smart enough, large language stuff to figure out how to put things together to make sense. Although it does a better job with words than it does with audio and video, right?
Mhm.
But it's getting better at audio, but video gives away, like, when a person has three arms or something, it's like, okay, it's not quite there
Mhm.
yet. And sometimes the words,
When you see a person with three arms, it makes you wonder what it's doing with the words.
yeah, exactly. That's exactly my point. So, we also know that it's mostly Western and it's mostly Caucasian, is where a lot of, because that's what's
Okay.
already out there as the
Mhm.
content. So, I don't think representation is there, and I don't think different cultures, different worldviews. Sure, some of it, but I don't think it's as equitable. I don't think every person is getting exactly what they need in the moment, to include all of us getting a much broader range.
Mhm.
Yeah, and my immediate thought on that is you're right. And but secondly, in terms of teaching people, use that word teaching, to use AI wisely, um, you might ask AI a question, but then if you're smart about this, you can say, well, okay, what are the fringe views on this, or maybe what might be
Mhm.
an Eastern view on this? You can, if you're smart about it, prompt it to give you those answers, but it won't necessarily give you them by default. That's that's one of the big issues.
For
What
sure.
what are your thoughts on that, Barisa?
Definitely, if there is any, like John just said, and your both points, that AI will bring to the surface whatever is already there in reality. So when the content is, if the content is not very diverse, in that case, that's what will bring up AI will bring up to the surface. And in that case, it will be inequitable. And then the other point is that somebody told me, I think it was my brother, we had a conversation about AI. And when we were doing research on AR, asking some questions on ChatGPT, he said, challenge it by asking more
Oh, yes,
questions
absolutely.
and keep asking and keep challenging
Yes,
until
yes.
you see and
Yeah.
verify what the answers it gives you. And then, of course, you can use your own knowledge and experience to make a decision whether, okay, it seems like maybe
I mean,
relevant or.
I was using it this morning, and I
Mhm,
asked it to write. Oh no, I had gone through a whole kind of cycle of getting it to write something actually about education and AI, which
mhm,
I'll maybe share with you later. Um, and then at the end, I just said, criticize this. I just said, tear this to pieces for me. Okay, so a lot of the material was mine. So some of it was was its. Um, must get the AI's pronouns right,
Don't
mustn't
know
I?
it.
mhm,
And of course, it does a wonderful job of tearing apart. Even if you told it to write something and given it very little prompt, and it's written something, it's put something for you, and then you say, criticize this, sometimes it will totally tear it apart. And you think, well, hang on, you just wrote this.
mhm.
So it's this is part of the education in terms of using it, is to, as you say,
Exactly.
to challenge it.
Yes.
Challenge is the right word. Actually, even tell it it's wrong.
And
Yes.
go,
Mhm.
go.
No, I was just going to add to that. Yes, this is actually the skill that needs to be taught in schools,
Yes.
not
Yeah.
just providing the tool and just here use ChatGPT, and some students will just use it for completing their assignment and zero effort or intellectual effort there. But the skills or the tools the skills that the students need to learn would be verifying the information,
Yeah.
looking for primary resources or secondary resources before they check ChatGPT for that, for accuracy, or just to develop the idea, for example, for any project or assignment. Challenging it, as we said, like the learning how to actually write a prompt too.
Mhm.
That will
Yeah.
also make your results or make the results much better, of course, in terms of quality, accuracy, as much as possible. And then they need to know also that it is, no matter what, it's not done by human. Your role there as a human is very important, so that
Yeah.
this is not
Yeah.
neglected.
There's something that happened recently that I need to look into and disturbs me a little, is that on Google now, if you Google something, then it'll give you an AI summary of the topic as well as the search results.
Yep.
And of course, I'm Googling things around conversational leadership. And so it comes up a lot of the time, and it actually defines or says something about conversational leadership in that like AI summary. And it's not drawing on my material, but well, some of it's drawing on my material and John's material, but some of it's come from somewhere else completely, and it's a bit of a mess. And I think I really don't like what it's saying.
Mhm.
Um, and so that's something that I think most people find this, if you're interacting with AI and you know a lot about the subject area,
Mhm.
you you're in a position to criticize it. You can see where it's getting things wrong or getting nuances wrong. If you don't know a lot about the subject area, especially young students, then you don't know, and you've got no real way of knowing, other than maybe, well, you can question it, but even then it can still potentially give you the wrong answer. Well,
Mhm.
maybe not the wrong answers. Wrong's it's not the right word. Misleading and
Misleading
nuanced
or
and biased,
Bias,
biased
maybe, yeah.
or limited. That was the point of the
limited.
equity.
Yes.
The equity stuff was, you're right. Like, I can get these Western answers and not realize they're Western, and then prompt for Eastern.
Mhm.
But it's even more obvious when, like, you ask ChatGPT, for example, to create an image with people in it. All the people will be white in the image. You can say put more diversity, and then it'll try. But the fact that you have to know to ask that. So to Brisa's point of like learning how to learn, like the validation, the verification, yeah, imagine a 6, 7, 8 year old who gets it back. How do they learn that skill? So the learning how to learn. And the point I want to make too is like, I think before the pandemic, plenty of people were using Zoom and virtual platforms. but it wasn't popular and it wasn't widespread, but it was out there.
Yeah.
Even like Second Life and like walking around with avatars, which still to this day doesn't seem to have totally caught on, even after the pandemic or during the pandemic. But now it's much more commonplace, right? It's like a fundamental shift from we don't have to fly over there to see you to do this kind of call. The comparison I want to make is in education, I think it's been there for decades, would be my guess, where there are certain teachers, certain school systems that are not trying, to your point, to teach or to use this pedagogy of like memorization and passing a test. Here's 10 data points. I want you to memorize these 10 data points and just keep repeating them until your short-term memory has those. I think there's plenty of people that for the longest time have not been teaching that way at all.
Yeah.
But now it's just like virtual after the pandemic. I think learning after AI, is it not just a million times more clear that it's not about memorizing?
Yeah.
It's not about taking a test, passing a test, or proving you know some data point. There's some other entirely different skill set that some people have been doing anyway, but I think AI now just makes it that much more clear. And again, I'm not just about students. For parents, for admin, for anything in education system, it's a different way of operating.
Yeah. There's an article I read recently in Substack. I'll share it with you later. The one message in the article which I took to heart was we might talk a lot about, hey, in the age of AI, it's about learning to learn rather than learning facts. But there's a very strong case to be made until you have got some basic understanding of a topic. Until you've got the foundations, you can't absorb more because you don't have anything to build on. You don't have the ability to interpret the information that's been given to you. So somehow you still got to teach basic facts in some way, and then AI can help you build on that.
Yep.
That seems to resonate with you.
Yes, absolutely. Because I see in the school system, I noticed one thing is that when last year, it wasn't like long ago, it was last year, some tools were not allowed to be used in the public school system. And then the next year, this year, they decided, well, we're going to add, we're going to use AI and we will pilot some schools and already, I think they are using Google Notebook. LM, and for that, I see that there are so many, as you said, there are so many skills that you can still teach the students or the learner, regardless whether it's traditional student or outside school context. There are so many skills needed before using AI. So in terms of, for example, the research that we would just mention now, when you do, I noticed when even I search a certain topic, using Google only, reading the articles, knowing where the source is it reliable or not, where is it coming from, who's the author, all that. Then I did all of that. And then I checked ChatGPT. I almost knew where the information, like when I was reading the results, I was like, oh, I know that article. Oh, I know this one. It wasn't that reliable, but it doesn't
Yes,
show you
yes.
that. It just give you that result. So for me, I think in the school system, I tried to use one tool, and it was Miro. Uh, and I said, okay, I saw the students using ChatGPT just to complete their homework. They just put the question
Yeah.
of the question of the homework and just get the answer, copy paste, done. Then and it was like something that everybody will hide and like, no, no, that was my answer. I did this, but I was like, okay, how about we provide a safe environment where students can choose AI in a productive way, not necessarily just copy and paste your assignment, the answer to your assignment. And then I had them do a So I actually taught English as a second language. So I taught, my goal was to teach language, right? So I had them learn how to write prompts and then use AI to write descriptive language as much as they can, and then produce a text and produce a picture, a visual. And it went great. They learned the language, they learned how to use the tool, AI, and they got a result that is purely their product, their
Mhm.
input there.
Mm.
But this
That
is one,
3 days,
this,
it
yeah,
took 3 days for it, and then it
but
was
it's
then
one of the
needed.
big issues that seems to be, that, well, that is being discussed in educational circles is whether the use of AI is dumbing down students' ability to think for themselves, for critical
Mhm.
thinking. And there's a
Mhm.
lot of research that demonstrates that that's true. And a lot of people maybe arguing against it and saying, well, it depends how you use the tool. If you're
Mhm.
just going to do it to copy and paste and get the grade, then yeah, it's going to dumb things
Mhm.
down. But if you're going to interact with it in a more intelligent way, then uh, it's going to support you. But I think even there's research that shows it still dumbs you down. Whatever happens at the end of the day, you are
Mhm.
you're less smarter intrinsically than if you weren't using it,
Yeah,
which
dude.
is a
It's
big
just like
concern, clearly.
we joke about this over here. Use Google Maps to drive around the DC
Mhm.
area
Oh yeah.
all the time. And what about that? Because it's been happening to us that day when Google Maps goes down.
Mhm.
Oh,
I've
the world's going to come to an end when it
I've
happens.
I've I've lived in
Nobody,
this.
people won't even be able to get home.
Exactly. And I've lived here for decades and made
Yep.
the drive a million times, and
Mhm.
still there is some kind of like confidence or something. But I still want to go back to both of your points about
Mm.
foundation, because I still want to, you know me, I want to make out that point of like there's foundational content. I need to learn that 1 + 1 = 2. Maybe. I'm going to push much heavier on. I, I'm going to use the word relational, but I bet you, David, would more agree if I use the word conversational.
Mhm.
What if in schools it's not teaching foundational content of foundational math, foundational science, foundational language, but it's foundational relationships, foundational conversational skills,
Yeah,
the seeing of a conversational process, the seeing of a relational growth and process, that foundation as
that's
opposed to the content, or maybe in addition to the content foundation. Because I don't know for us, but we're born after this stuff. Yeah, we can see it's still for now, it's still relatively easy in the two universities that I teach at. When a student submits homework, it's relatively easy for me to go, yep, 100%
Mhm.
AI, can just tell.
Mhm.
But just in the last 2 years, it's harder and harder to tell.
yeah.
Is that really
I mean,
their
I,
right
I
or not?
think,
I'm not sure.
yeah, I think I've shared with you some of the work of Professor Rupert Wegeriff at
You've
University of
mentioned the
Cambridge
name.
on
Yeah.
on well, dialogic education, dialogic learning, dialogic thinking, and that's all around dialogue. It's all around creating so-called dialogic spaces
Mhm.
where we can come together, effectively in dialogue, effectively in conversation, to learn through conversation. In fact, he makes an interesting distinction. He talks about, probably not going to get his words right, but we can use dialogue to learn. So in having conversations each other, we get to learn, but also in having dialogue with each other, we learn how to dialogue better.
Mm.
Those those are the two benefits from
Mhm.
dialogic learning, as he puts it.
Which for me, if I give an example of one of these foundational elements, then dialogue and relationship, intent and impact.
Mm-hmm.
I think very few people in the world, myself included, are clear on their intent before they speak and are at some kind of speed that they lose their own intent. And so if you challenge someone, what were you trying to do with that comment, that joke, that story? Don't know.
Yeah,
Don't know. I just
absolutely.
I just said it. So like intent and impact. And then the other one, will and grace.
What was the
I
last
think
one?
will and grace. When is the time where you need to use your will and move yourself or a group forward, and when are those times when you need to have grace and forgiveness and step back
Okay, Will
and
and
slow down?
Grace. This sound like some sort of duo.
It was in the States. It was a TV show. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, I think both of those like that to me, and I don't remember ever learning those in school ever.
No,
And they to me would be foundational.
Hmm.
Like that would need years of practice to work on those. But
we
I
never
got very
had.
good
I
at
never had any conversation in school at all.
yeah.
Zero.
And with
Yeah.
technology, it's getting even harder because in the school context, again, back to that, I know that based on experience, years of experience in that, I think even saying good morning in the morning can get you nothing. So it's to that extent. So when you have like, okay, turn around and talk to someone next to you about so and so, that takes maybe 1 second and we're done. Oh,
It doesn't
done.
take, yeah, it doesn't take long to do.
No, you mean
I
like
saw
Like
something, I
in a,
think,
there's
yeah.
no conversation, like,
you mean yeah, you say have a conversation and they say
and
they
they,
literally
Oh,
don't know what to do.
yeah,
They
they
can't
start with one word and they say, and I look back and they're not talking. And then I was like, we still have maybe 3 minutes or so. And like, oh, we're done.
nothing to talk about. Don't know
They
how.
don't know
I
how
was
to.
like,
It happened
impossible.
at one of my
Yeah.
cafes years ago. The bunch of students, there were two groups that had fallen silent. They were just sitting there, and I went over and I said, "What's going on?" They said, "Well, we've run out of things to talk
We
about." And I
finished.
thought, I couldn't believe it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's, you see, all of this makes it really hard, or maybe it's more requirement from the teacher or the educator to have so many skills to match all this new context or new
Yeah,
era of AI and technology. Because something like this, if that situation happens, you have to, like, I would think maybe preparing keywords on the board or some, like, make everything really small chunks for them. Here's one topic, or how about this question? Go over all the five W's: what, where, when, and why, and how, and all of to have a whole conversation. It's not just one word. Of course, modeling all of that and providing all of these skills before the content, just how are we gonna talk? Basically teaching conversation and teaching dialogue, how to do that.
mm,
Because sometimes it's like, dialogue where we have to talk?
Mhm.
Interesting.
I know. But then it's probably going to work okay for younger children if we bring them up in that in a dialogic environment. But for older children who've been brought up, in the more traditional environment where they haven't learned really to have a conversation,
Mhm.
they're going to find that really tough.
Mhm.
We could also, I don't think we have time here, but we could even talk about the impact of all the stuff we're talking about. So, what if it's true? Just go down that path for a second. What if it's true that the dumbing down, like I rely on AI for everything, like, literally to get me to the grocery store,
Mhm.
AI gets me there. For this conversation right now today, hey, tell me about AI. I relied on it rather than like me putting time and thought into it. What's the impact of that? What happens when at mass scale, 8 billion people are thinking and behaving like that? And that's where I do think I go back to the personalized and equity thing. I do think there's something about maybe rather than based on your what we call zip code in the States. And if you're lucky enough to get a good, if there is such a thing as a good or bad teacher, and to joke about it, we call it creation date, when you were born,
Okay.
being batched based on creation date.
Mhm.
I think all of that stuff can go away. And maybe it's less like we're going to get into some kind of cultural thing, I think, where like in the States, we've seen this big shift. And then I'll make my last point here of like, it used to not be cool, or many, many parents did not want kids to get into the technical trades, fixing cars, plumber, electrician.
Yeah.
Don't do that. You need to go be a doctor or a lawyer, right? That was for when I grew up, that was the thing. We've now seen it sort of swing the other way to actually it's cooler to be in a technical
Well,
trade.
you're also
And
more likely to have a job.
yeah, well, nowadays, yeah, exactly. And I think just in the last 2, 3, 5 years, it's actually sort of balanced. I think it's like it's almost like more that's cool, whatever your choice is. Like
Mm.
there's less sort of, I don't know, stereotype or pressure or something to do it, just a little. So
I think what you're saying, John, is really interesting, and especially if we kind of come up a level in our thinking. Um, if AI really does put the vast majority of people out of work, how important is it that they have a good education? I mean, intrinsically, I say yes. Of course it is. Um, but there's an argument. You could argue the other way and say, well, hey, what does it matter? I mean, at that level, what does it matter if people are, illiterate? That if they can't read or write in a sort of new already based society. But there must be already there must be a lot of people who actually can't read and write, and they get away with it. Increasingly, they're going to be able to survive.
Yeah, well, ChatGPT, you can use audio.
Yeah, I use it all the time.
Yeah.
I hardly ever write. You should see my writing.
All right, so I have a big question that's sort of off topic, and you can choose
Yep.
to say no. This is our first special guest, so I'm very curious. What's it like?
Well, I really enjoyed the conversation, and it's being here with you. It's kind of all what I would have said when I was watching this live stream. I am saying it live here.
Yeah, wonderful. Love
So
it.
it's really great to be included in the conversation and hearing your thoughts live at the moment.
I think we're going to have you back a little bit more often, Marissa.
Okay.
Definitely. Well, I think we've hardly scratched the surface of this topic, and
Yes.
it's probably one of the most important topics actually of the day. So we should really come back to it.
Yeah.
Maybe we come back from the other side of my mom told me once, I told her I do leadership work, and she said something to the effect of, why would anyone want to be a leader? And I'd never thought about the negative side or the downsides of leadership. I wonder if we do the same thing about learning. I think we do it plenty about education.
Why
But
should
what
anybody
about
want to learn?
learning is bad, learning is negative, don't learn. I think that could be a provocative
No, I think it's built into us. We are born curious. We're born to learn. The vast majority of us.
Then there's a separate topic.
Separate topic. Shall we stop there?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, John.